Iceland. So remember how I told you guys that I missed my flight from Norway to Iceland? Well, it meant that I had to take a later flight that day. It also meant that I got into Iceland very late. I got into Iceland at past midnight. And when I arrived, it was freezing cold. That place is not called Iceland for nothing. Before we go on, remember to hit the subscribe button, like this video, comment, and share this video to all your friends who like traveling as much as I do. So I get into Iceland and I get on the shuttle that I had booked before, right? Before getting there, I had pre-booked it. And in Iceland, they're not very big on dropping you off at your exact location. They have these things called stops. I mean, they're bus stops, right? But this happens because many of the roads in Iceland are one-way roads. Some of the roads in Iceland, within a certain time, you're not allowed to pass that road and blah, blah, blah. So they do this stop thing, right? So they stopped me off somewhere and I had to now find my hotel in the freezing cold. And I wasn't quite sure where this hotel was, and when I got tired of just trying to figure out where it was, I had to stop somebody and ask them, please, do you have Google Maps on your phone? I'm trying to find this hotel. The only problem is that the guy was drunk, so he was having a lot of trouble even being steady on his feet, talking of even trying to key in the address of the hotel where I was going into his phone. At a point I had to ask him, can I do it myself? So I took the phone from him and I keyed it in. I eventually found the hotel. So the hotel had told me that, since I was going to be arriving later than I had originally planned, that there probably won't be anybody at the reception past a certain time, because it's this really small hotel. You know how European hotels can be. But that I needed to call a certain number when I get there, and they will tell me how to access my key. So I got to the hotel and I tried to use my phone, because I'll typically roam my phone when I'm out of the country and it will work, right? It's just that they'll charge you a higher rate. Now, you need to take note for those people that plan to visit Nordic countries. Your Nigerian phone is not going to work in a Nordic country. My phone did not work. I was unable to call that number. So I stood at the reception and I was very confused. I didn't know where to start from. I didn't know what to do. I was just in a state of confusion. And luckily, God sent me a guardian angel. There was this guy that walked into the hotel. He was obviously staying at the hotel, but he had gone out to buy booze because he had a bottle of alcohol in his hand. And I said to him, please, can I use your phone? I need to call. And he was like, sure. So I used this phone and I called the hotel and they told me how to access my key, from a safe deposit box. So I took my key and I went to bed. Now, some fascinating thing I should probably mention about Iceland is that the sun never really sets. It sets at about midnight, 1 a.m.-ish, but as early as 4 a.m., the sun is back up. So there's practically no period of night as such. Anyway, I went to bed and bright and early the next day, 8 a.m. I was at the hotel reception so that my tour operator could pick me up, yeah? And they had said that pickup could take up to 30 minutes, So when it was 8:30 and the bus was not there to pick me up, I figured something was wrong. So I approached the hotel receptionist and I told them to please call the tour guide or the tour operator or whatever. And then immediately they called them. Do you know what they said? They said, oh, we tried to call you. We called the number that you provided when you made the reservation, but nobody answered. And the bus has gone. It has gone. I said, what do you mean? And they're like, no, we tried to reach you. We tried to tell you what stop you should be at for us to pick you up. But because we couldn't reach you, the bus has gone. At that point, I just refused to be frustrated. I started asking myself, it was actually supposed to come on this trip. First, I had missed my flight and now this was happening. I didn't know what to do. The whole reason that I insisted on coming to Iceland the day before, no matter what time I was going to get there, was just so I could get on the tour. And then now this was happening. I was so confused and I didn't know what to do. So I said to the lady, listen, I'm desperate. I need to get on this tour. What can we do? apparently the only thing that I could do was to take a taxi to meet up with the tour. They said they don't usually do that, but they'll make an exception for me. And that the taxi was going to cost me quite a lot. But you see, at that point, I didn't really mind because I was desperate. So the hotel called me a taxi because, again, in Iceland, you have to call a taxi. You can't just flag a taxi on the road. Crazy stuff. So they called me a taxi, and I got my first glimpse of Iceland. Because I had arrived at night, I didn't really get to appreciate, you know, the city on my way to the hotel the night before. So I saw these really beautiful ice-topped mountains. I need to mention at this point that Iceland is probably top on the list of the most beautiful places that I have ever visited. I mean, you go to a place like Iceland and you know that God is alive, because that beauty is just to die for. And remember how I was talking about the series Vikings? If I had seen Vikings before visiting Iceland, I would have had more of an appreciation for certain things, because like in the series, some of the people migrated from Norway to Iceland. So it would have just been nice to appreciate like how the country started, like the first people to actually find and settle in the country. So anyway, I joined the tour, and the tour started at the Golden Circle. And from there, we went on to these volcanic hot springs. They're called geysirs. And essentially what it is this hot water that is bubbling in a volcano. And then when things get to a head, it just explodes. And it was really, really amazing and beautiful stuff. And I just had to capture it on camera. Now, the problem is you don't know at what point it's going to explode. So you literally have to just have your camera ready and waiting for that to happen. And bear in mind, it was freezing cold. My hands were freezing.
Are you surprised it's snowing in Iceland?
I had on like 3 pairs of leggings underneath my jeans, and I had like 3 tops and a sweater and my jacket, but I was still freezing. Like, I was so cold, you know, but I just had to capture it for y'all. So I held my camera and I captured it, and it was beautiful, beautiful stuff. At the point where the water boils, the whole thing just explodes, and it's so beautiful to see. It's so amazing. But you know what I had to do? I had to buy a head warmer, and I had to buy gloves because it was cold. So from the geyser, our next stop was the Gullyfloss waterfalls, and I had to go close to the waterfall. And if I didn't freeze to death that day, I'm not going to freeze again because it was so freezing cold. But it was worth every minute because it was breathtaking beauty. You guys, Iceland is beautiful. Iceland is beautiful. Iceland is beautiful. I can't say it enough. It's a very, very beautiful country. And from the Gullyfloss waterfalls, I also went to the Kerry crater. And I was so overwhelmed by all the beauty that I was seeing that I actually had to take a moment to just appreciate the fact that I'm actually able to travel and see these things for myself. You know how sometimes you can get overwhelmed with the beauty of something, and you just appreciate the fact that you are able to behold it. That is what happened to me at the Kerry crater. It was beautiful. And then from there we went to this mall where we could see a demarcation in the ground right inside the mall. So apparently an earthquake had happened there like some years ago, and there was a demarcation in the ground literally between North America and Europe. So all you had to do to cross over from Europe to North America was just step over that line. It was fascinating stuff. My next stop, and 90% of the reason why I went to Iceland to start with, was the Blue Lagoon. So honestly, I wanted to go to the Blue Lagoon. That's the whole reason I went to Iceland to start with. Because I remember people saying that going to Iceland was Alashiju. Like, what are you going to look for there? But I went, and it was amazing. The Blue Lagoon is this geothermal pool. It's artificially created, but it's beautiful stuff. It's blue water, it's warm, and when you get there, they usually give you like this silica mud mask. It's supposed to make you like 10 years younger, but now wash. Anyway, I remember these ladies that I was on the tour with, when they saw me with my phone in the pool, they were asking me, they're like, why would you bring your phone into the pool? And I said, why would I come all the way to Iceland and come to the Blue Lagoon and not have any pictures to show for it. Like, where does that happen? In what life? You know what? They ended up asking me to take pictures of them with my phone, and then I had to DM it to their Instagram. Can you imagine that? Oh, that was exactly what happened. The Blue Lagoon was really, really nice. I mean, because it's warm and the weather is freezing cold, so it's nice to immerse yourself into all that warm water. It's a good experience. I definitely recommend. And my very last stop was to see the Eiffel Tower of Iceland. It's some structure called, I'm just going to try to pronounce it. I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce it right. It's called the Hallgrímskirkja. I'm almost certain I pronounced that wrong, but you get the idea. It's this really, really, really beautiful structure that the architect never lived to actually see it be completed, but it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. And that essentially was Iceland for me. I flew out the next morning, and trust me, this time around I knew the exact stop to be at because I didn't want any more surprises. I'd had enough of missing flights and almost missing tours, and that just wasn't going to happen again. Subscribe to my channel, and thank you, Iceland.
Nice.